So today we have some very important news from around the world, very important developments from around the world that we had, and it's important that we understand what happened in them, what happened in the world, what happened with everything. So the first thing that I want to discuss with you today is about the Epstein files, and as we have seen, as we have been following all of us together, that Epstein files have really created a political storm in the US. Initially, Donald Trump was not willing to sign on the Epstein Transparency Act, which is basically the law that was passed by Congress, led by Democrats, and they wanted, the all the files related to Epstein to be made public. But then, Donald Trump, he relented and he signed it into law, and now all of those are being released. And today, 19 more photos were released out of those 95,000 photos that we had. And these photos show that Epstein really was mingling with the big boys in industry, in corporations, in politics, in media, etc. For example, this is the photo of a young Donald Trump who can be seen with Epstein right here with him, and then there's this woman. She is clearly laughing and trying to talk to Trump, and Donald Trump is looking into her eyes like that. So these are the photos that were released today, so I wanted to share them with you. And this is another photo in which we can see Bill Clinton, who is the former US president, the husband of Hillary Clinton, father of Chelsea Clinton. He's also has one of these photographs here, and we can see that here is this Epstein as well, his hand on the shoulder of Ghislaine Maxwell, who was one of his friends. And then we have another photo of Donald Trump. All of the images of these women have been redacted, but Donald Trump is still there. And then we have this another very important photo. This is basically the founder of Virgin, Richard Branson, who is seen here with Epstein. And I don't know who this third person is, but these images have been released by House Oversight Committee. And then they now this is extremely funny and interesting. This is another photo that we can see here. This is Trump condom for $4.50. Finally, I'm huge. So this is another photo that has been released today. As you might know, Epstein was involved in sex trafficking of minor girls, and all of the photos that were released from his house, they had all of these sex toys and all of these things related to sex and whatnot. So this is another of those images. And then this is another photo. We can see Lawrence Summers. I think this one, the man in these glasses, this is Woody Allen, who is the famous director of movies. He's also seen here. And then we have Steve Bannon. He is an ally of Donald Trump. He is a supporter of the MAGA movement, and we can see that here he is sitting and discussing something with Jeffrey Epstein. So yeah, we have Steve Bannon here as well, and then there's another Trump photo. So these were the basic photos that came out of these. Investigations. There's this another photo I wanted to show you, where I saw him. What was his name? Yeah, let me just scroll up. It was here somewhere. Uh, where are those photos? Where are 7 photos? So let me one. Excuse me. Yeah, this is the photo of Woody Allen. I don't know if you have seen his movies. So Woody Allen made all of those movies with names of writers and all of those intellectual conversations in those movies. He's talking about Marx. He's talking about Kafka. He's talking about French novelists and Russian novelists and whatnot. Diane Keaton, who died a few weeks ago, she was also one of the stars that appeared regularly in his movies. He made movies like Midnight in Paris, Annie Hall, A Rainy Day in New York, Manhattan, Irrational Man. His movies are really good. Woody Allen is probably one of the my favorite directors. So I don't know if you have seen his movies or not, but I saw him. I've watched him quite a lot. So yeah, so he's also seen here with Jeffrey Epstein, and then again they are the same photos. Jeffrey, yeah, this is another with Steve Bannon, and I think there was another with, this is Alan Dershowitz. He's some lawyer, this man. So yeah, so Steve, Jeffrey Epstein was really mingling with the top boys, movie directors, presidents, businessmen, corporate leaders, politicians. So these are the latest images that have been released by the House Oversight Committee. 19 December is the deadline for the release of all documents as set forth by the law that has been passed by Congress and signed into law by Donald Trump. The name of that law is Epstein Files Transparency Act, which talks about the release of all the files and what happened in all of those things, all of those days when Epstein was illicitly trafficking minor girls for sex. So this was the first story. The second story is really, really, really important, broken by the Wall Street Journal. It says that US forces raid ship, seize cargo headed to Iran from China. This is an exclusive story shared by the Wall Street Journal. It was shared a few hours ago. It says that the US special operations team boarded a ship in the Indian Ocean last month and seized military related articles headed to Iran from China. So what the US forces did, they boarded a ship, they seized a ship which carried cargo from China to Iran, and the ship was several hundred miles off the coast of Sri Lanka. So the US forces seized a ship headed for Iran from China, carrying cargo from China to Iran, and they boarded it and seized it several hundred miles off the coast of Sri Lanka. The previously undisclosed, okay, and this was this raid happened last month. This is not something that happened today. This is, the news is broken today, the news is shared today, but it happened last month. The previously undisclosed raid was part of a Pentagon effort to disrupt the Islamic Republic's clandestine military procurement after Israel and the US inflicted heavy damage on the nuclear and missile facilities of Iran during a 12-day conflict in June. So this is something that happened last month, and this is an effort by the Pentagon to prevent Iran from redeveloping its nuclear weapons, redeveloping its nuclear capability, redeveloping its ballistic missile capability, which, according to the U.S. president and according to Israel, they have really damaged after the 12-day war with Iran, in which they struck inside Tehran, inside Iran, and struck all the nuclear facilities. And it was the first time in recent years that the US military is known to have intercepted cargo with Chinese origins on its way to Iran. So they say that this is the first time that we have heard something in recent history, that something that has been sent by China, that belonged to China, of course headed for Iran, that has been intercepted by the US. The operation occurred weeks before the US seized a sanctioned oil tanker on Wednesday off the coast of Venezuela. Again, so this is something that didn't happen today. It happened something a few weeks ago. But as we know, the US has already seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, that the US says made certain trips to Iran, to Venezuela, and according to an investigation by the New York Times, that specific tanker, which the US military seized, also faked its location. It would be standing or deployed, it would be present in some other part of the world, but its transponder, its look the signal that it would be giving out would be different, so it faked its location. So, anyways, the cargo consisted of components potentially useful for Iran's conventional weapons, and they were dual use items with both civilian and military applications, the official said. So, according to the Wall Street Journal, the cargo that was present on that Iranian ship that was coming from China to Iran, that was carrying goods from China to Iran, it had some cargo, not specific. We don't know what that cargo was, but according to the people who were consulted, who were talked to by the Wall Street Journal, they said that the cargo consisted of components potentially useful for Iran's conventional weapons, and they had dual use items with both civilian and military applications. The US had gathered intelligence suggesting the cargo was going to Iranian companies that specialize in procuring components for its missile program. So again and again, this article makes this point that the cargo was specific. The cargoes was directed or was meant for the Iranian ballistic missile program. And Iranian officials say that they are redoubling efforts to rebuild the country's ballistic missile arsenal, fearing a new confrontation with Israel. Negotiations with the US over Iran's disputed nuclear program have yet to resume after they were interrupted by the war. So Iran is saying that they are expanding their efforts to rebuild their ballistic missile arsenal, and the talks with the US over this all of this uh, nuclear weapons program, they haven't resumed after they were shut down. So again, two Iranian ships have been sailing from China with tons of sodium percolate, a main ingredient for producing solid propellant for ballistic missiles, the Wall Street Journal reported earlier this year. So this is not the first time that US has intercepted and seized Iranian cargo, but this is again a rare confiscation of military related technologies bound for Iran, comes as the United Nations. Okay, so but the thing is that although US has seized Iranian goods. For example, previously the US seized, in recent years, the US seized several cargoes of weapons and oil belonging to Iran. Back in January 2024, the US Central Command, which oversees American operations in the Middle East, confiscated Iranian-made ballistic missile and cruise missiles components headed to Yemen's Houthis militants near the coast of Somalia. So I remember seeing that news. A lot of weapons were seized in that raid. And the US has also seized Iranian oil shipments in 2020 and 2033. So the point being that the US has been seizing all of these components, but this is the first time that the US has seized goods coming from China to the Iranian regime. And China has long been a diplomatic and economic ally for Iran, importing its crude and decrying US sanctions on Tehran as illegal. So China is a trading partner of Iran. China imports oil from Iran and also sells all of these dual use components to the Iranian government. So it also says that the Chinese government is it isn't clear if the Chinese government is aware of shipments to Iran's missile program. So they are saying that we don't know that the Chinese government is aware of all of these military equipment, dual use goods that are being transported to Iran. So, but this story also says that the companies in China typically provide dual use technologies that improve the precision of Iran's projectiles, such as spectrometers, gyroscopes, and other measurement devices. That is much more dangerous than chemical precursors, he said. Who said? Benjamin Bantablu, an Iran director at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, a Washington-based think tank. So the point being, they're saying that China provides Iran with dual-use technologies that Iran uses in its own missile program, like spectrometers, gyroscopes, and other measurement devices. So this was another very important news that came out today by the Wall Street Journal. And then I have this third news, which says that SpaceX sets $800 billion valuation, confirms 2026 IPO plans. What this means is SpaceX is going public. SpaceX is going public in 2026. It has its plans for initial public offering. And what SpaceX has done, it has authorized an insider share sale that values Elon Musk's rocket and satellite maker at about $800 billion. So initially, they are going to sell the shares of SpaceX among their own employees. Insider share sale will take place, and this is gonna put the value of SpaceX at $800 billion. And then the company is also preparing for a possible public offering in 2026. And the purpose of this IPO is to raise funds so that SpaceX can fund and support its insane flight rate for its developmental Starship rocket and artificial intelligence data centers in space and a base on the moon. So the point being that the company SpaceX is trying to raise funds for all of its space program, in which artificial intelligence data centers are going to be built in space, a base a human base where humans can work research on the moon is going to be built. And then the money to carry the Starship into orbit, into space. All the money that is needed for all of these projects is going to be raised through this IPO. So what is going to happen? The per share price of 421 the per share price of 421 in its latest secondary offering laid out by Chief Financial Officer Brett Johnson in the memo to shareholders is nearly double the 212 a share set in July at a $400 billion valuation. So SpaceX is looking to raise money, so that's why they have set the per share price at $421 per share. And then this is nearly double the share price that was set in July at a $400 billion valuation. So since they are trying to double the valuation of SpaceX, so they have doubled the per share price to 421 per share. The valuation vaults past the previous record of $500 billion that ChatGPT owner OpenAI set in October, making SpaceX once again the world's most valuable closely held company. And then about the initial public offering, the Musk led company is targeting a valuation of $1.5 trillion for the entire company, which would leave SpaceX near the market value that Saudi Aramco established during its record 2019 listing. So, again, Elon Musk is trying to raise money. He's trying to sell shares at a very large price to raise money for its space program. This is again a very important news. In the domain of science, technology, artificial intelligence, and of course space exploration. So this is what is happening in the world. I hope you like this. I hope you keep watching this, and I'll keep bringing you more, and we'll keep doing all of this again. So yeah, that's